Berbers versus Hindustanis. Like I said, it's the nomad start. So you kind of start in this middle lake, and then you kind of take your villages up to this town center on the side. You want to do that as quick as possible, of course, but you do also want to put your town center in a spot with good resources and not too far away from the middle where all these boar are. I'd probably prefer Cabbage Crew here with the access to that gold. I think this position here for start the game already, you're kind of in no man's land, and I guess that's a bit of RNG. You kind of just dump your town center around anywhere and see what happens. You don't want to muck around with it too much. But in a way, I think that's a little bit unfortunate for them. But let's see what they can do or plan for that. We already have a villager come out here, and we have the horse already trying to block. That is going to be too close to block, and obviously we have unloomed villagers, but still works, and we've got nearly caught a dead villager there. But good work. Hard to lure in this type of setting. So no villager death. But it's one boar apiece right now. We have Cabbage Crew's horse waiting for the next boar, and of course you're going to block and kill one of these villagers. And not quite in the right position to achieve that. That's not going to be an issue at all. Not committing to it that much here for start the game already. 2 boars have been lured already, going for the 3rd on the side of Cabbage Crew. But you know, the further and further on into the game, the further and further the boars are away from each other, from the TCs. And we might see this eventually play a part. This horse is now out of position, unfortunately, so all of this waiting has not paid off. But we're going to see it now to start the game already. Again, not quite in the right position, although coming back. And here we go. Can we get some damage on villagers here? TC garrisoned. And not quite, but good try. Oh, and kills the boar with the TC, so it was worth it in the end. However, start the game already's horse is gone, and that's a huge blow, I'm going to say, because you do need to keep the scouting going, and if we look at start the game already's scouting, it's pretty terrible. So that's going to be a huge disadvantage. So maybe a little bit greedy there, and you know, just a little bit of a misplay. But in terms of boars collected, I'm going to say it's pretty much even. However, I think there's an odd number of boars in the middle. Got some damage. I mean, if you can pick up that horse scout, that would be amazing, but not to be. So if my counting is correct, then it could be 100% wrong. I think Cabbage Crew probably won the boars. But we do have Mill coming in the back here for berries. Cabbage Crew, they got the mill here for deer, which better source of food for sure. Feudal Age is coming up here for start the game already. Haven't quite got there as Cabbage Crew, but I'm assuming that's because all the villagers are holding that food and it's not necessarily in the bank. Oh, they're a little bit short actually. I think that was a forced drop off that didn't quite work. So start the game already is going to be ahead here for Feudal Age. And they're going to open with the barracks. Maybe thinking aggressively to start with. Be interesting to see what strategy they go for, but obviously Berbers want to get into stables eventually and get into a bit of a night rush would be my expectation here. Hindustanis can go for any number of options, so it is all up in the air for that. Now what are we going to go for? A stable. I think it's a pretty wise decision. So really liking the start here from start the game already. Any kind of score lead we might be seeing for Cabbage Crew will be the scouting advantage, so I would not give that any credence at all. But we don't have any food to open this scout rush. We have opened with a spearman, because we might be thinking of a scout rush of their own here for Cabbage Crew. And I think once that wood goes up, we might be seeing it. Although we might be seeing a fast castle perhaps, although the resources and the eco split wouldn't suggest that, so I'd take it all back. They're going to have to do something in feudal perhaps, or just chill in feudal for a little while longer. Start the game already, I'm definitely not going for fast castle. In fact, they're even going to go for town watch. I wonder if that was because they were housed. I would say so. And we're desperate for walls. Oh, goodness. We're even extending walls out here. I guess we want to include the gold in our base. And we think we can get away with it. Alright. Fair enough. We're going to go for some, long, skinny walls here for Cabbage Crew. If anything, I like their walls better. It's more compact, more efficient. We've even deleted those walls. We want the deer. Deer is obviously a very good choice. If you can get away with it, and we've finally got a scout up out of the floor. A couple scouts actually. But you're not really going to be able to get any damage here with 2 scouts. We're not producing anymore. Forgive me if I'm wrong as well, but I think the Hindustani scouts go through palisades really quickly. I think is one of their advantages. Which, it makes sense, this palisade is already on fire from 1 scout. And Stonewall, okay. We are really going defensive here. But it might be a decent strategy. Especially we know Berbers are going to go for some kind of mobility play. So, might not be terrible. You also have a lot of gold. Let's see how much gold they got inside the walls. They got about 10 grand worth of gold. So, that's going to sustain them for quite a while. I might not have gone for stone also. It seems like a bit much. Alright, going for a market. And I assume a blacksmith at some point. And look, oh, we get a lot of town centre upgrades on the side of start the game already. Which means it is less villager time. Villager production time. Invested a lot in spearmen here for Cabbage Crew. Without that much pressure being placed on them. So, you know, 4 spearmen, that's a lot of resources and delays the uptime. Literally only have 4 scouts. 4 spearmen to 4 scouts. I guess the annoyance is definitely worth it, perhaps. And we're pretty close in castle time ages. You know, a little bit of advantage here for Cabbage Crew. That means they're going to be able to get knights out just that little bit quicker. And we're building that stable, which I think makes a lot of sense. Oh, it's a second stable actually. There's one down at the bottom. The bloodline's coming in. Blacksmith coming in. Really compact and secure base, especially with all this kind of house reinforcement. So whoever's on base building, I highly commend. The only disadvantage being you might get castle dropped at some point if Hindustan gets some kind of advantage with camels or something, and we're going into cav armor, so I can only assume if you're up against birds, right, you have to expect the night rush. So do you just go straight into camels? I think that's a good idea, but actually the Berbers are going to go into camels. Hindustanis are going into bloodlines and forging, so this is a real castle age kind of cavalry arms race, if you will, but camels have been spotted here. So it'll be interesting to see what start the game already does, but you know, you've committed to the text already, so I'm pretty sure you have to go for your own camels at this point. And I guess the thing is, it's cheaper camels versus better camels eventually. And camels are on these villages. Town centre could be denied temporarily. It will go up, but a couple villages down there. Not too much of an issue. We're on 3 TCs to 2 TCs, so Hindustani's player is going to have to withstand the pressure here while they utilize their 3 TC advantage. I mean, they've got 3 TCs, doesn't mean they have to use 3 TCs necessarily. But I think they've rightly realized that they're gonna need to keep up with the production here. And even thinking of the archery range, I mean, I like the thinking, right? Like, camels versus archers. Archers are really good, but you haven't gone into any of the upgrades yet. So we'll see about that. And the Berber player is going to run into stone walls. So, you know, they've been stone walled. There's no way that they can get in there. But everything is safe at home for Cabbage Crew, no pressure. I say that, but camels are coming across. But this army does not need to be caught out. Yeah, but what can camels actually do? You can't sit under TC fire, of course. You can buster a weak gate. That's for sure. You can repair the gate, yes. However, it's still going to go down pretty quick, and we've got more camels on the way. We don't have the camel numbers, and if they do get through, it could be a real issue. We're going to have to keep beefing up the numbers here. Can't get any camels picked off either. And, you know, whenever I play, Berbers are my weakest matchup, I reckon, because I die to this so often. It seems like an easy thing to potentially fight against. You know, you just have to match the numbers or get through this part of the game, but it's such a hard part of the game to get through. And I can only assume that that gate's going to go down eventually. However, the stone walls come in. That's very smart. This villager is trapped between a rock and a hard place, along with his wife. And they will be saved eventually. Oh, actually, they destroy the walls themselves, take a risk, and that risk does not pay off in the slightest. But we're looking at 24 camels to 9. So this production is not keeping pace. But it's also not paying off. More villages exposed, more villages gonna go down to the camel's scimitar. And, you know, a couple of dead camels on the ground as well. So Cabbage Crew are building numbers. Start the game already needs to match those numbers, but are actually losing them and actually losing fights over here, and they're down to 3 camels. 2 camels. I'm gonna go for the Panic Castle. It's in a fine position, I would say. Protect that gold somewhat. So I'm not ruling them out of the game yet, but Berber cheap camels. It's such an easy strategy. Oh, somebody left the gate open. Someone has left the gate open. You know, we don't have fletching on our town center arrows. We have exposed villages around mills at the back. I can only assume this is going to end in disaster. You know, if you're Cabbage Crew here, you've got to get all the value you can, because this is going to be the decisive part of the game. You've got to lock your gates. You've got to lock your gates. You know, because you think you're not going to do it, and then you do it. You walk through the gate unexpectedly, and then stuff like this happens. And if we look at the economy behind this, it's flying. It's absolutely flying. And they, you know, start the game already, still can't engage the camel numbers that are inside the base. So they're going to be stuck here with this economy. You know, there's all these barren farms. I shouldn't say barren farms, they're looking very juicy. Just nobody to work those fields. They're going to be kept off those farms too. You know, I think you just take the fight here to Cabbage Crew. I think start the game already is desperate, and you've got the good upgrades. Obviously, don't want to take that fight under Castle Fire. But all of these resources not being used, and more camels go down. They just never had the numbers start the game already. And I didn't even see this number of camels on the side here. And yeah, I mean, these Berber games, they're either won or lost in Castle Age. Like, if the Berbers can get damage in Castle Age, it's pretty tough to match. I'm looking at 25 eco kills right now too. And even with this number of camels, you can tank a few arrow shots. However, camels inside the base are now gone. See a bit of camel litter on the floor there. But yeah, I mean, you still don't have the numbers to beat this number of camels. You've even got a monk here that can turn the tide even further. And a castle's going to come out. That castle's going to have fletching. Trebs will be at 1.5 minutes away. Camel's caught slightly out of position here, so this could be denied and delayed, but at what cost? I don't think it's a cost that is worth it, and it's not even going to happen necessarily. Yes, he's going to pick up a few villages, but looking at the scoreboard there, he only actually took down 2 villages in that attack. Or basically his whole camel army, his limited camel army. Bodkin is going to be in this castle now. So those arrows are going to hit those camels hard. We're going to see Trebs come out here pretty soon. Imperial is on the way. We'll start the game already. And chain barding armor that will match the text, albeit very briefly, because we have heavy camel rider and plate barding armor and conscription. There's a castle on this side as well, by the way, so very hemmed in. Treb produced. This castle even got ballistics. These camels cannot approach this whatsoever. And, you know, I said Hindustanis have a counter for everything. If you're this far behind, and, you know, they're not actually that far behind, but in terms of positionality in the game, they're behind. It's going to be very hard to come back from. These camels actually have nowhere to go. They're trapped in this little pocket. So he's trapped himself because his gate has been built. So again, the camel army gets whittled down, and it's just the number of keeping your... It's just the game of keeping your numbers. And they were never really able to do that. Going for cash bar. I'm gonna be honest with this. I haven't played Bird for such a long time. I feel like I'm against them a lot of the time. But Casper, I can't remember what it does. You know, it's hard to keep track of all these civs, especially with the new ones coming and going. And these villages are toast. These villages are absolutely toast. I'm going to try and block out the camel. There is no way that those camels are going to be blocked out. Up to 52 villager kills. And the GG is called. As I should have shown here that actually this castle was going down the trips as well. Looks like start the game already launched a bit of a attack against that treb. Not sure if it was, you know, treb on treb violence or if it was camels. I would assume it would be trebs. But yeah, just surrounded on all sides. And first game I've seen of Cabbage Crew, and they did not disappoint. They had a strategy down to the T. It's the Berber strategy of outproduce anybody you're playing against and just overwhelm and dominate. And they pulled it off. All right, game number 2. We're on Morass. There's the map. Got the jungle in the middle. The fishing, the shorefish in the middle as well. We've gone for the woo here as Cabbage Crew. I'm going to return to that. That is interesting. I usually consider them with hybrid maps being their speciality. This is obviously not a hybrid map. So I want to talk about why they've chosen this. I have an inkling why. But we're up against the Malay here on start the game already. And just with solid serve, you get to those advanced times, feudal, castle, imperial, so much quicker than your opponent. You can kind of get an advantage when you hit those early. So might see some pretty standard stuff here. I start the game already taking advantage of the early up times. Is what I'm hoping for there. However, the woo did not receive any balance changes, I believe. Again, could be wrong. But I believe they did not take any balance changes in the patch. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I'm second guessing myself now, but correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. But they are very high up in win rate, I believe. So very curious why they didn't get a nerf of some kind, especially to the GN Swordsman. Oh boy, the GN Swordsman. This is what I'm expecting to happen in this game, is that Cabbage Crew are going to aim to get GN Swordsman. They're basically the unkillable unit. If you got archers against them, archers do nothing. They've got so much pierce armor. And then if you open with archers and decide, oh, I need to get men-at-arms and long swords to potentially counter, they can also somewhat deal with that as well. From what I've found, I've played against this Civ quite a few times, and it's just oppressive if you get to GN Swordsman. So we'll see if that happens. I could be 100% wrong, of course. However, Malay obviously have some infantry advantages. They get their armor upgrades free, I believe, is their advantage. That's it. Elephant's obviously going to be very good against GM Swordsman as well, so I think they might be somewhat decent or capable of dealing with the woo. Let's see if they can pull it off. So Obviously on this map you want to take advantage of shorefish at some point because of how quickly you can collect food from shorefish. So men-at-arms rushes are pretty good. And we've seen a few men-at-arms rushes on this map in previous sets. So I might be expecting that, you know, dare I say it, we have seen Armenians played on this map a lot as people try to turn their men-at-arms rush into a long swords rush and take people off fish. It has not worked. I've seen it fail twice. I think it's greedy and unnecessary. I think all you need is a men-at-arms rush and then transition into whatever you want next. So I'm pretty glad not to see Armenians here played, because I like the thinking that people have with that, but I think it's overrated. And yes, we're thinking barracks on both sides. You know, this is not a fast castle kind of map. It's hard to wall. You're not going to be walling this off very easily, so I think you have to match aggression with aggression. We have a militia, two militia out already. They have the armor upgrades, remember? We'll see what they can do here. Obviously you want this to turn into men-at-arms before you start attacking, preferably. And we'll see what kind of patience we have here. Yeah, this is why, because villagers obviously can fight off militia. So the timing is just a little bit off here. Men-at-arms is in now, so if you're going to get damage, it has to be now. So you cannot be sitting on this. And this is going to be too late. This tower's going to be up. Enemy militia are out, so we've gone for the men-at-arms timing, but we've missed it. Obviously, if the time was perfect, and you know, I say all this with a grain of salt. Like, I'm a complete garbage player. So this is, I'll get the timing so wrong, and it will be a complete shit show. And you know, half of these strategies I would not have a hope of pulling off. So please don't think it comes across as too much of a criticism, but obviously you can deny that tower if you have 3 men-at-arms there. It's before their men-at-arms comes out, power doesn't go up, fish denied, right? That's the difference. And then you're on the front foot. However, it's still really positive because all the attention is here. None of the attention is on your home fish. And we're actually adding archers behind this, which is a great unit for Malay to get to. And it's going to be a really good supplement to this attack. And, you know, remember you got the extra arm, so... But you have revealed the archer already, so we're going to go to an archery range of their own for Cabbage Crew. So no damage is going to be had here. Again, really compact base, so no damage can happen here. So I might start chilling if I was start the game already. Because there are no weak points. We see the counter units. You know, like fletching. Yeah, I don't know if you need fletching, but you might need fletching if you go for counter towers, which is exactly what we're going to do. And that's to deny this fish. Men-at-Arms are on the back here. You know, not supporting this attack. Obviously, we can go for the skirms with the Men-at-Arms. And we're focusing the wrong units potentially, although it does work out. And this fish is actually going to be denied. So I was saying a preference for pulling back, but actually what we've seen is a increase in the aggression, and this tower can actually range. This tower, it's pretty far away to me, but fletching for both players is in, so they both range each other now. So it is a tower battle. But economy behind here is going great. The need for farms is much less on a map like this, especially if you can continue with the fish. We have guys on stone here. Well, guys and girls, sorry. One girl. So we're going to be able to sustain the repairs much better here on the side of the Malay. And we might actually rush this tower down. You know, behind all of this, we have been increasing Men-at-Arms production. So, again, I was opting for a reduction in aggression. But we've actually really seen that increase. But nothing on stone, so can't repair this any longer. So that's going to be hard to maintain. Could even produce another tower here. I mean, if you're going to go aggressive, let's go more towers, eh? Might try to rush this tower down again. We've actually bought some stone, so it is possible that this can be saved, but at what cost? And rather than go for the tower, we're actually thinking, let's find damage elsewhere. Economy and resource pool is looking great here for start the game already as well. I mean, I think I'd build another tower at this point. Then you really secure, you know, there's no chance that you use it. You know, if you're going to go for it, but you know, tower's been opted for in the defense, which is not a terrible idea. But we are going up to castle. We're getting the stone mining upgrade. I'm loving this decision making. If you're going to go for aggression, commit to it. They're certainly committing to it. You know, getting more on stone. Aggression with archers on the back. The skirmishers are out of position. It doesn't even matter at this point if that tower goes down, I would say. It's achieved everything that it needs to achieve. Surely this tower doesn't go up. Archer's being thrown away here. Okay. I would have said maybe one Men-at-Arms to deal with this issue. But I feel as though he thinks he can deal with both. Although he's producing a tower of his own. So that's how he's dealing with that. This tower's not going to go up. I don't know what this army is doing, and you know, they need to save Private Ryan on the back there. But abandons the tower. Wise decision. Longsword's going to come in and maybe try to take down the tower solo. Alright. Meanwhile, we've got a fight on the back against skirms. We're committing to both infantry and archers. So we are going to go to crossbow eventually. And army's looking pretty bleak here for the Wu player. Remember, we were thinking of GN swordsman, but we've been kept in feudal all this time. So we just haven't been able to get there. So that could be calculated here from start the game already. Maybe it's just a little bit lucky. Not quite sure. But what they're doing is really positive. They haven't got enough of that castle yet. You know, forget about this area. I mean, just go for the tower on this wood line if you're thinking of more towers. And we are actually heavy on stone right now. For Cabbage Crew, where is that stone? Oh, they were. They're off it now. But they could be thinking of a castle themselves. And I'm just begging them to take down this tower. Like, I can't believe Cabbage Crew have been allowed to keep this tower here. The second to 1 TC, and I think that's wise. I do want to see some more stone though. I might even buy the stone. Because I think this is such a critical moment. And here we are, GM Swordsman. Look how long they last. It's archers. It's absolutely ridiculous. They do go, so you got to take them down to maybe like 2/3 hit points. And then you can kind of get the job done. But it's hard to get there. I can tell you that much. But this tower's still here. I can't believe this tower's still here. We have enough for a castle though. This is what these villagers are up to. That is a risky castle. They obviously don't know about this mangonel. Well, they do now. And decide against that castle. And if that castle would come a minute earlier, not an issue, right? Like, I think you're laughing. Still advantage to start the game already though, because I feel like their kill numbers should be quite in favour. However, it's not as good as I thought it would be. But finally we're going to be able to take down the tower? No? Please just take it down. I'm begging you to take down this tower. And thankfully more villagers coming to put this castle up. The tower can obviously finish Cabbage Crew's tower there. Might need to, you know, dissuade these mangonels from coming over, and big hit there. You know, just flips that group, but is enough. And I do see players taking some risky chances now and then with their crossbow numbers. And I think the power spike of the GN swordsman is is gone because, you know, once you get to this number of crossbow, then you can focus them down. It's in small numbers that it's hard to take down. And we've even got some longswords attacking those building that castle by Cabbage Crew. But that castle does go up, and let's see what the fire archer can do if we decide to produce any. Oh goodness. A tower went up around the side here, and we've actually got Karandans attacking, and tower is repaired, and they go through the gap. Oh, please run through. Be my guest. They left the door right open. Don't be so rude. Somebody let you into their house. You do not refuse that hospitality. But this is highly disruptive to Cabbage Crew's economy, of course. And this was a really good comeback here for the start of the game already. So, the Gian Swordsman Rush, not going to work. The GG is called. Tower has been placed in the back here, so they've been let in. And it's the GG. So, man, you know, like I said, we were a crazy, powerful civ, but we just forget how powerful the Malay are. They're just so good. And look, still no farms. No farms on this map. You do not need them. He's basically hunted. I was going to say all the fish on the map, but of course there's lots of fish on this side. But look at how many fish are gone on the Malay side of the map. So it's really focused on that. What the team has really focused on that component of the map. So the strategy was there. And they denied the fish on this side. Cabbage Crew had to go into farms. I can only imagine they're growing cabbages. But the cabbages didn't work. Cabbages did not work in this situation. So, we're in game 3. We are on Jungle Rumble. That's where you've got this inner arena with an arena style wall, stone wall. And then you've got your outer for both players. In the setting, you can have one player play the outside, one player play the inside. That's probably the way you're going to play it if you've got 2 people on your team. Although I'm sure there are other ways to play the map. But you will be able to get through this tree line eventually, and the maps will become one. But let's look at the civ picks. So we have Britons on start the game already. I've seen Britons played on Jungle Rumble, and it might have even actually been start the game already that played as Britons on this map. And we have Lithuanians on Cabbage Crew. Just think, whenever I see Lithuanians, I'm like, how many relics are there? Let's check that out. As we zoom out again, there are 7 relics. Obviously, if you collect relics as Lithuanians, you get +1 attack on your Cavs. It's not really a Cav map for me though, because what will happen is that these sides will be walled off. So mobility is gonna be lacking, I would think. I do think we're scouting the relics on the ends though, so is aware of that potentially. And Britons, you know, Britons aren't my favourites, especially in terms of power level. I believe they're fallen down the chart of power for me. The longbow, when I was playing this game in the 90s, and yes, I was playing this game in the 90s when I was a young lad, Britons were OP because of the longbowmen. I don't even think about the longbowmen anymore, if I'm being honest. I think start the game wins this. They do. So that was a little bit silly. However, what good is a scout in the middle of the map? Basically useless, because there is nothing to explore. How much gold is in here? There is 90,000 gold, approximately, in the middle of this map. There's more gold than anybody could possibly want. Resources on the outside are pretty garbage. Pretty garbage. So you're gonna want to preference the middle. And I'm just thinking, like, I've never played this map before. I'm just thinking, how would I approach it? Because it would seem the middle of the map is way more important, with a bit of emergency gold on the outside. So as we hear these crocodiles, I was wondering what that sound was. It's a crocodile. I think you do want to chop through the middle here and connect your outer ring with your inner ring, so you can kind of control from two angles, kind of thing. Which seems sensible. Whereas, again, if I'm thinking about if it was start the game already that did play on this map previously, they did go for this strategy of cutting through the back and reinforcing the middle through the back. You know, they had like a bunch of barracks and halberdiers kind of coming through the back and reinforcing, and I believe they won actually. So, you know, it worked for them. Potentially. Again, memory. Memory is a funny thing. I like this. I like trying to cut through here. But, you know, the outside of course, the outside can be purely your, like, farming hub. Like, you could just go nuts with farming on the back, and for it to be completely undisturbed. What is going on back here? Hello? Barracks? Barracks being produced. Interesting. Very interesting, okay. I don't know if that's the play that, you know, you see that a lot in fortified clearing, right? Getting around the back. And then attacking the economy through the back. It's not something that I would have thought about, if I'm being honest, on this map. But just because the middle is so important, I wouldn't even be thinking of the outside ring, to be honest. Oh no. This villager went down to try to wall this. This scout gets its revenge, you know. Maybe that villager was his son, potentially daughter, taken down by a crocodile. And now we've got to mourn the loss. While his second eldest, not his eldest, comes through to finish the job. You hate to see it. Hate to see it. But yeah, this map obviously plays a bit slower. You've got all the time in the world to execute your strategy, you would only expect fast castle type strategy on this map. Although not a fast castle because you've got 2 TCs to kind of keep up and running the entire time. Do you know what, guys? I know the strategy that I've got. And just remember, I'm dumb, okay? So it's probably not a good strategy. I would play as humans because you know that nobody is going to be producing military at this time of the game. Everybody's going to be chilling. They're going to be thinking to castling. Nobody's going to be thinking of army. Everybody's going to be thinking of castle, maintaining two town centre production. What if you go Cumans, right? Go Cumans, get your battering rams out, bust through the gates, take the middle before they even realise what's hit them. And then you've got the middle. Who cares what happens down? Or like, say they do something crazy on the outside. Doesn't matter, you got middle. I think there's something there. But this little situation has been found out. There is a knight coming through. The second eldest boy of the scout is fleeing for his life. The crocodile that... Oh, the crocodile that took out his eldest son is dead. But crocodiles are, you know, rampant on this map. We're going for chain barding armor. So we're thinking of a high pressure kind of situation, just like the Durda map, but on the outside ring. We're going for a monk counter, which I think is a good strategy. It's going to have to pop out here eventually to take this knight. Where did he go? I'm sorry, what? Oh, he isn't there. I thought he disappeared for some reason, but obviously not taking advantage of that monk. I guess you might be thinking about critical massive monks or something. But yeah, these knights are just going to sit under here. I will not worry too much about the town centres. And actually, light cat, well, preempting the monk play. Be interested to see if this castle goes up. Oh, they don't wall it off. I don't know what happened with the wall, but that did not work. And that could be game losing. Because I think a castle there actually does what they need it to do. And that castle, now that we know what's going on here, that castle ain't going to, you know, you can basically just have one player micro the horses in and out, because you can win or lose the game on this right. And actually, even the hit points of the castle will deteriorate eventually. Oh, we have sorted it though. There's too many villagers to build that house though. Oh no. Oh no. Not like this. The monks finally pop out. They pop out way too late. This, you know, could have converted that very first night before the white cav got out. But now there is absolutely no way. By the way, these villagers have not collected any resources for some time. Yeah, there's no way. And, you know, Ram is going to assist with this as well. Yes, relics are being collected in the middle. I will say, so what? It does not matter. All that matters is this. Another battering ram comes out. It's not looking good. Not looking good for start the game already. I think we can just assume that this outside situation has been lost. I mean, we have seen expansion over here, and this knight hasn't seen this yet. But imagine if he got in here. Now, that could be a disaster as well. And now I think you go for the TC, that's right. And start the game already recognizes that and runs. Scouting going on around the back here. So we're highly aware of what's going on there. And that will be the next target. Town center's gone already, so that was really quick. Crossbow numbers are going to be whittled down by knights. Everybody knows that knight micro around archers is garbage. But it does not matter in this situation. And here come the ranks. And I think you're just all in this if you're Cabbage Crew right now, because this game ain't gonna go to Imperial. Or highly unlikely, especially with a 30 villager deficit. And you know, those town centers do have bodkin, so you've got to respect it a little bit. But you can just throw these knights away to just ensure that these rams don't get taken down by villagers. And the rams make quick work of the town center. These villagers will be taken down. This has been closed off now, so that's decent. And, you know, if we can get to Imperial first as Cabbage Crew, that town center will be that castle will be taken down pretty quickly. Those villagers were dispatched of quickly, and we see the GG. Obviously, could hold out for longer, but I agree with that decision wholeheartedly. You weren't going to come back from that situation. We would see Imperial come through, Trebs, and it will be a slow grind death, I would say. So, there we go. Cabbage Crew. 2-1 up. That means they're one game away from the finals, which is exciting. Alright, we are in game 4 in the semi-final match between Start the Game Already and Cabbage Crew. We are on Bay, one of my favourite maps of the tournament, although I have a lot of favourites of the tournament so far, but having this Bay here, very apt name considering the title of the map, we can kind of have that early fish boom. Becomes less and less important as you spread to the rest of the map and the rest of the resources on the map. And you know, there are lots of gold piles around, but there's small gold piles and stone piles, so you do have to continuously expand. You can't just, you know, wall up and stick behind your walls. That is a sizable gold pile in your base. but you will have to expand out. And that's the name of the game. And then there's a ridge at the back with lots of golden stone. So you're definitely encouraged to get to the back there. But we're Italians here to start the game already. Really good water/hybrid map Civ, producing fishing boats quicker. Just a great Civ. Do they have any other naval bonuses? Yes, they do. Dock technology costs are down. Fishing ship cost is down. So you can get to war galley quicker as well. It's a good advantage. Marline's also pretty good on water, or in hybrid map situations, because your buildings cost 15% less wood. That means you can save that wood for docks, or galleys, or fire galleys. So it's pretty good. And then you've kind of got your gold advantage there. Very thematically correct for the Malians. Famously they had their is it a king? Was it a monarchy, or maybe it's just their ruler, Mansa Musa? He was the richest man in the world in medieval times with the amount of gold that he had, which I love that they have that baked into the game. This is not perfectly executed because he can't reach the dock. He's kind of trapped here. That's going to slow down that fishing time. Whereas, we already have a fishing ship out here for the Italians. My apologies, we can actually reach that dock. And we're going to attack the scout, and delayed response here from start of the game already, but we'll get away. I love that for them because they're basically going to be 2 fishing ships up in the early game for start the game already. So early advantage for them. But yeah, like I was saying, you can get more docks, you can get more fishing ships, you can get more galleys up earlier as the Malians, so they are a good hybrid Civ map as well. This is a funny gold configuration to have that hole in the middle. I haven't seen that. But yeah, look, 3-2 fishing ships. Look at the amount of food we've got to start the game already. It's absolutely massive. We're dedicating a lot of resources here for Cabbage Crew to wall. I just don't think it's necessary on this map. Remember, I don't think anybody is going land early in this map. You've got to really focus on water at the start. And wow, look at this. I guess you can come around the side here with Cab, in the shallows. I guess they forgot about that when they were walling. But this is a lot of wasted resources. And this is where all the resources are going for the extra wood for the Malians. So they've basically negated their eco bonus in favor of walls. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it because nobody is going for land pressure on this map this early. And, start the game already heading into double dock. Feudal is nearly in. Feudal is only just coming in now, starting to be researched by Cabbage Crew. And we're already on double fire game. So I just don't think there's any way that Malians win water at this point. There's no way. There's no way. And, we're still committing so hard to these walls. And on a map that expansion is key, you don't want to be building walls. So I'll be interested to see how this plays out for them. Because start the game already is going to have fish for days. You know, you're always at risk of committing too hard to water with fires, perhaps. So I think just stay off more fires at this point. Going for demo rafts, it is one way to get back in the game. Start the game already, do something silly here. But they are spreading out. So that's nice. Preventing perhaps another dock being built. And yes, if I was Cabbage Crew, I would not be... Oh, he's going to go for the fishing boat demo. And, you know, could be a bait, because now these fishing boats are grouped up, but no. Demo raft goes down without any payoff. Demo rafts are just such a risk for me, you know, like... They could work out, but so often they don't. In a situation like that, at least. But this is making much more sense if start the game already, these walls. I mean, it would make more sense if the gold was inside the wall, and kind of do a wall like that. But these walls are much more efficient. To say the least. Obviously you have this little gap here, but you've won water, so nobody's going to be coming in that gap. Double walls. I guess there's going to be a breach in the wall here once the dock goes down, so this potentially hasn't been thought through. This whole walling situation. So they'll have to sort out those kinks in the strategy if they do move on. However, start the game already is not progressing the castle yet. They are just now, but Cabbage Crew are a good minute ahead. You know, minute plus. So that's what happens when you invest in water, for sure. You do put yourself at a disadvantage temporarily in the castle age timing, but you know, especially when you invest more in fishing boats, and this could be a fishing overboom. Even though it's only 9 ships, because there is only about 500 food left in the middle, and you're going to have to invest in fish traps for these boats. So, you know, maybe 5, 6 maybe, but 9, I think it's a bit much. But let's see what Cabbage Crew can do here. You know, if they get the castle, if they get a castle down, you know, potentially, I'm going to say here, so you protect this gold and, you know, maybe this gold in the back. Then you're cooking with gas. Start the game already. Might want to consider putting a gate there so they have another exit out to these resources. But we're thinking light cabs. Not exactly sure why. That is a curious choice for me. Because obviously knights are gonna actually demolish light cabs. Oof. Close the door behind you, please. Thank God. This is risky. This is, you know, don't even repair that. Let them come through, because if they decide they're going to come down here, they're going to see this. And that makes me a little nervous. Definitely makes me nervous, and, you know, just as I thought, here come the knights. They're going to see the villagers, however, we're probably good at this point, so notice just a little late, so that's unfortunate. And this knight is going to look over the palisade and say, hello guys, please don't do that. Please don't bust down that wall. That's very rude. But they're in. And, you know, if we were to take one thing away from Cabbage Crew's play, is they love a castle age knight rush. So definitely prepare for that if you're playing them in the finals, you know. They want to get through, bust through your walls with an overwhelming number of knights. And this knight sneaks its way through. Demo raft in that dot. So you could just pop that out and leave that there potentially. Knights around the side here killing villagers, so the wheels are falling off a little bit here. We'll start the game already. We're prefixing villagers over knights at this point. But the knights do go down. We do have 4 knights of our own to start the game already. So this should be dealt with. We both have the same upgrades as well, so it's an equal fight in terms of upgrades. But it's a lot of dead villagers. And remember, a lot of this eco for start the game already is basically equal eco. However, it's fishing ships with fishing traps. And that's a lot of investment. It is probably on par for efficiency, but that's a lot of investment. So we're now going into second TC. So Start the Game already has had their second TC for a while, but with all those villager kills, they are down in villager numbers, not in eco numbers. But we're starting our 3 TC boom off the back of that raid, which is, you know, pretty well executed, I would say. I would hold off here for Cabbage Crew, although we're doing a little dance. Keep villagers in the town centre. God, don't you hate it when players are like this, you know? I only say this because I've been beaten by something like this for a while. And is this town centre even firing arrows? Where are the arrows? Hey, where are the arrows? Let's go back. Let's go back. Is start the game already been... Is there a conspiracy against start the game already? Because here they're firing arrows. Villagers are in the town center. Arrows are being fired. They pop out. They go back in. No arrows. No arrows being fired. What's going on? Wouldn't it be nice in this basically even fight? Not anymore. You have arrows. So there's another bug. Hey? Let's see if Neopal's saying anything in the comments. No. But yes, now we've got camels in the fight. And that's going to be hard to contend with. And no arrows. Yeah, arrows. Okay. Arrows are being fired. And we're just going to sit under this TC and fight these knights, which I don't hate. So more villagers down. Thinking a bot can here to start the game already, which should help with that arrow fire if the arrows do actually fire. Camels might try to break through this gate. Demo comes out, attacks the camels. Camels are going to attack fire ships. This is not an interaction you see often. And it's going to force a castle drop on the front here. I remember we have seen some failed castle drops, and I was going to say if they did not get that wall down, I would have absolutely died. Camels are just going to run through this. Remember, these have chain barding armor, which again seems to be a technology preferenced here for Cabbage Crew. Residential development going up here for start the game already. To protect the gold. But all the while, as I said, you want to expand out. That expansion is not happening. In fact, you're being restricted more and more into your own base. And that's exactly what you don't want in this game. Yeah, these villagers are trapped. And don't know what these, and we're gonna have iron casting soon as well. What are these villagers gonna do? What are these villagers up? Were they trying to trap him in or something? Or, you know, maybe wall off? And then you wall this off and then they're trapped? Seems highly ambitious. But Genoese crossbow coming in. Don't think the numbers are there. They have lower range, remember. And no ballistic, so I don't even know if we got any hits off on those camels. And wow, look. War galley coming in. So we're going to reboom on water. And then we're probably thinking cannon galleon and aerial H, I reckon, for this castle. Because it's on the coast. And then, what do you do after that? What do you do after that? Probably not much. And yeah, again, Cabbage Crew's entire strategy, entire premise is to outproduce with Cav. I do like the Genoese addition, certainly. I think that's a good addition. These castles are risky, man, like, completely unprotected. He might just get away with it, but to not even do the preemptive walling, just hanging your ass out, is, yeah, it's too risky for my life. You can't leave the game up to chance like that. We're going to target mangonels. Which is not a bad strat. Oh, he got greedy. They got greedy. They did not need to target that mangonel. That was greedy. But we have seemed to have stabilized here a little bit. To start the game already, I was worried. I was definitely worried. I think Cabbage Crew could have definitely put the clamps down on this side and prevented any kind of expansion happening. Unfortunately for them, that hasn't happened. But we are going to be in Imperial about a minute and a half quicker. You know, Farimba might come through as well, and then these camels and knights are going to be insane. And fishing ships are going down at the same time. Double castle at the back. You know, all these castles are going to be really good for Genoese crossbowmen production. So I still give start the game already a chance here. You know, already have 33 Genoese crossbows. We have ballistics. We've got bodkin. We have the tools necessary. We have the production buildings necessary. But we have to deal with Trebs, and I just wonder how that's going to go. So I feel like they're clawing it back just a bit. Again, a couple of knights up here and you're, you know, there's no way, you know? And I actually think it's a pretty dangerous spot for Cabbage Crew to be in. Don't think you go for this. I think you go for more mangonels at this point. Abuse the lower range for Genoese crossbows. Love this castle placement, although Trev is coming out. Here comes the mangonel. We're going to push these archers back. Gonna lose a lot of cav in the process. Mangonel does go down. Cabbage Crew might be choking it a bit here. Monks on light cav, that is not ideal. No repair. So I was going to say no repairs on this castle, but there is repairs on that castle. This trip is hanging its ass out for some reason. This castle denied, and is actually deleted by Cabbage Crew. Karimba isn't. But Karimba against Genoese crossbows is not ideal, and oh, don't you hate it when that happens? You packed up Treb, gets hit by a Treb. I hate to see it. But yeah, look at this. Start the game already has been allowed to expand. They've expanded to the back here. This should have never have happened. If you choke that out, you know, the game is over, I reckon. Hindsight is 2020, of course, but yeah, that's tough. But it looks like we're thinking of skirms. I was thinking, are we thinking hand cannoneers? And do we even get hand cannoneers? We do, but that is not the case. And the light cab is an interesting addition against Genoese crossbows. We're just going to use them to get tricks. Is the play. And there's a meat shield as our skirms come through. And these Genoese crossbows should not be hanging around for this. This is not a favourable engagement. So, as good as I think start the game again doing, they've just lost a bunch of Genoese crossbows for nothing, basically. Castle up top. I was going to say it's going to be denied, it's not. Villagers attacked a cavalier there for a second. I'll give credit to where credit's due, you know. Start the game again, I didn't think they would be able to expand, they have. And that has kept them in the game, certainly, but now we're Genoese crossbowmen against trash, so this is not favourable. This is not favourable at all. We're going to have to think of some response. And that response is going to be cav of their own. Now, Italian hussars are very good. So it's not a terrible idea. But it probably needed to come a little bit earlier. And there we go, there's Hussar, which is a good addition. Could produce that demo again. This would be great in this situation. But do we only have one stable? We need more stables. Obviously a lot is going on though. And there comes stables, so this is promising. However, damage is being done on the back. Two Genoese crossbowmen are going to attack villages, and they're going to do a lot of damage. However, that is so many villages, and those villages should all build the castle at the same time. But they're more interested in gold, they're interested in the greed of the gold. That castle will be built. And the bad thing of going Hussar is it just invites you to go back into camels if you're Malians. So even though I like Hussar for Italians, maybe strategically it's not quite right. And Trebs are pushing forward again for Cabbage Crew. Remember, all those Trebs for start the game already been taken out by a light cav. And what is going to stop the Trebs on Cabbage Crew at this point? The map is starting to close in on them again. We're thinking now for mangonels. I mean, sure. However, it is skirms and light cav. I'll get some camels in the mix. Oh, we have a militia out, guys. Where is that militia? Can't see him. Oh, that castle's down. Skirmishes are on. Might see a big hit here. We do see a big hit. And this is not being focused on, so a lot of damage. But with this number of skirmishes, you can take out a mangonel quite easily. Knights will also be very effective. Nothing is protecting the trebs. Probably need to transfer back into camels. Usually not a good idea to put trebs next to production buildings either. But it will be enough. It is enough. Cabbage Crew. Take game 4 and go up 3-1. Best of 5. So that will do it. They have won. And they're off to the finals.